Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another installment of TED Excellence, the most patriotic show on the internet. And if you say otherwise, I'm going to call you a conspiracy theorist. How's that for a segue? And I come to you live from Crater Valley on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to Thursday, and happy 4th of July / Independence Day / day we kicked the British out of our country. To all of you who are in America, to all of you that are in Britain, well, sucks to be you, I guess. Also, you have elections going on, which, depending on what side of the aisle you're coming from, may also be a sucky day. So you have my sympathies in whatever way our excellent American sensibilities can have sympathies. Anyway, hope you're all doing well on this beautiful Thursday evening. I'm I'm recovering from a migraine. Woo! I think the change in temperature plus some work stress and bad sleep the last few nights has probably contributed to it. But I'm here now. I'm better. I'm just sore. And what better way than to treat a migraine with the best therapy ever? Yeah, that's right. Watching a TEDx. Boy, howdy. Actually, is this a TEDx or a TED? I'll have to remember as I watch it. No, it's a TEDx. There we go. It tells me right there on the label. A TEDx Surrey Salon. Also, because it's a special day, Independence Day, I also have a bonus video, brief little video to watch at the end after we've done the bingo card. So I'll hold off on that until that time. So if you want to hang around for that, oh boy, I'm sure it's going to be something. Either way, before I get to tonight's topic, who's joining me on this beautiful Thursday evening? Kiever Denmother. Thank you, Kiever Dam, as always, for providing the links to the GoFundMes for our friends Moonshock, Natalie, Angela, Ariaga, Rhonda, and Ashley. You guys take a look at those at the top of the chat box when you have the opportunity. Donate if you are able. If you're not, that's fine. But if you can, share those out on social media. I swear I will get my enunciation correct someday. That would also be very helpful. So thank you ahead of time for that. And thank you, Kiever Dam. Tony Giff. Good evening. Scribe, you don't really need to do a TEDx tonight. We use your bingo cards on leftist podcasts for fun. Oh, okay. They're that ubiquitous now, are they? Well, I suppose so. TEDx's are a reflection of our world. Noah Sencio, good evening. Funtime Bats, good evening. Ryan R, good evening. Oh, whoops. 2 Noah Sencios, 2 for the price of 1. Oh my gosh. Derek LaRue. Derek, thank you so much. As always, it's very, very generous of you. Hope you're having a good evening and hope you enjoy the show and having a good 4th of July. Granted, because I don't know. This is the thing. I don't keep track of these things. Granted, you're an American because you might not be. I don't know. I'm very inclusive here. I don't check your passport at the door. Either way, well wishes from Independence Day. Mike R, good evening. Who else is here? Shell D, good evening. Rotten Corpse, good evening to you. Rib Rascal, good evening to you. Spoonie the Rebel, good evening. Hero Soldier, good evening. Shady Grin. Scribbles, may you head be well this fine hour. Well, me head be good this fine hour. I got it. No, it's fine. Thank you, Shady Grin. Plague Trucker Zach, good evening. Who else is here? Robert Pincus, good evening to you. Roan Hirushin, good evening. Found, no one does exasperation like Scribbles. I got to put that on a t-shirt or a business card or something. Also, I'm trying to figure out, I'm honestly trying to figure out how to design a t-shirt for baling gum and bubble wire. I was trying to find the correct fonts that could represent those two things onto a t-shirt just for the hell of it in my often not even mentioned merch store. I'm still working on that. I'll let you know. Advocast Diaboli, what if friendship is the conspiracy? Oh my God, I guess we'll find out as we go. Tier Alexander, good evening to you. Urcale Di Stefano, good evening. Is it just me or was the audio a bit low? Is it low? I hope it's not low. I'll turn up my microphone a little bit. I hope not. Let me check my audio software. My audio software says I'm doing fine, but I don't know. I guess you'll have to tell me. Now I'm getting nervous. Angelverse, good evening. Miranda Stone, good evening. Queen of the Discourse. There you go. Finally, it has been done. It has been played. history shall be marked. Good evening, Miranda Stone. Resolute Germ, good evening to you. Simon Willikins, good evening. Mark Smart, good evening. And I think that's everybody. I think so. I hope so. Well, not I hope so. No, I hope more people show up. No, I take that back. But for any of you that I missed, anybody in lurking or anybody in the future, good evening. Sorry, I had to clean off my glasses for a second there so I could see what was going on. Okay. Anyway, what's tonight's topic? Tonight's topic is when conspiracy theories threaten friendships. Yeah, a little bit off the beaten path for subject matter on TED Excellence. It doesn't have anything, at least as far as I know. We can be surprised with diversity or inclusion or restorative justice or a zillion other things that I've looked at before. I tried to find something that was 4th of July-ish, like dealing with patriotism or maybe 4th of July specifically, but the things that I found were either really, really old, and so their references or things were completely out of date, or they just didn't really catch my mind. But this one was posted the other day, and I was like, okay, when conspiracy theories threaten friendships, I'm trying to think, let's see, what has been the conspiracy theory pattern in the last several years? Well, really, a conspiracy theory these days, the difference between a conspiracy theory and reality is usually about 6 months. Because how many conspiracy theories were so many of us accused of promoting during recent years that turned out to be either entirely true or at least based enough in reality that we could easily and should be easily be forgiven for our skepticism? Well, anyway, I guess the question will be, does a conspiracy theory or that's something that someone decides is a conspiracy theory become a showstopper for a friendship? I guess we'll find out together. Also, Miranda Stone says, oh my God, it's so long. Well, everybody has a burden to bear, I suppose. Anyway, before I get too far into that, tonight's bingo card is bingo card B. B as in birds don't exist. That was the winning conspiracy theory on today's bingo card poll. So if you'd like to join in on the poll each week to decide what bingo card we're going to use, follow me on X at scribe_light. You see it there on the screen. And with that, this one clocks into just under 15 minutes. So let's get started. I'll start off with a few seconds for a sound test. You guys tell me if you can hear it, and then we will proceed.
I've worked in planning and public health for over 10 years.
Uh-oh, public health? Uh-oh. Okay, now, this may just be my sensitivities talking, but public health, oftentimes in academia and elsewise, has been synonymous with social justice. So, or thereabouts. So I'm already wary. Did I pick a video that's going to start talking about DEI in some way? Let's go.
No. Focused mainly on improving living conditions in communities and reducing rates of chronic and preventable disease.
Okay, well, maybe public health in this instance is literal. That would be nice for a change.
It's been a rewarding, challenging, and meaningful career.
Especially given the events of the last few years, I suppose.
But when the COVID-19 pandemic began, the landscape shifted dramatically.
You don't say. Yes, okay. Tell us about those quote-unquote conspiracy theories in relation to the global health crisis. How have those turned out over time?
My colleagues and I found ourselves in the crosshairs of conspiracy theorists as we received harassment, insults, threats.
Okay, well, threats and things aren't excusable in any particular way. But could you tell us some of these at that time conspiracy theories? Please list them off for us.
Protesters blocked ambulances in front of hospitals.
Really? Okay.
And crowded the entrance to my own office, where they yelled outlandish and hurtful accusations at us that were, of course, echoed online.
Such as? Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt there. Actually, my finger twitched, as it were. I had a little bit of a stutter. My thumb stuttered. Okay. He has to get more specific about what he's talking about. All right. Just like so many other talks and presentations in the past, we have to have active examples of what he means. What constitutes in his mind, or what did constitute a conspiracy theory in his experience? Since his opening gambit is his own personal direct experience with this, which is fine, in order for this to make any sense, he has to give us examples. So we're listening for examples as well. Let's review the bingo card real quick to remind ourselves what we are listening for. Remember, this is bingo card B. B is in birds. Marginalized or marginalization, self-vilification or wretchedness, contradicts own point or argument, feminism, microaggressions or unconscious bias, privilege, benevolent condescension, weightless example, plays victim. I can't say he's playing victim yet. If he actually was accosted and threatened and everything else, it might be the case, but that might be a question for later. Collectivize his own demographic, economic disparity, argumentative non sequitur, attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase, a list, mind reading or assumes motives. That might be inevitable. Patriarchy, anecdote that probably never happened, diversity, equity, and or inclusion, white supremacy, childhood or family anecdote, systemic or institutional, leaves out vital context, which he's already on the way to doing, sales pitch for product or service, and lastly, word salad. Nothing on the board so far, but before I get on with the show, also, thank you, Keeverdam, at the Independence Day celebration. Have a great stream, everyone. Well, thank you so much, Keeverdam, and I hope you enjoy the Independence Day celebration. If they've got barbecue, have plenty. If they've got fireworks, take them all in and enjoy your evening. Thank you, Keeverdam. All right, here we go.
Fine. I'll never forget the day a suspicious package arrived,
Uh-oh.
triggering fears of anthrax or ricin poisoning.
Okay, if you thought it was that serious, what was in the box? Was it a red snapper or was it nothing?
I didn't sleep well that night.
What was in the box?
So given all this...
No. Stop. Already. Okay. Conspiracy theories, undefined. Mysterious package, uncompleted. Anecdote. I don't doubt that you received a quote unquote mysterious package, but was it just your paranoia? What was in the package? Oh my God. We're not even 2 minutes into this thing.
You might think I would be one of the last people who would empathize with conspiracy theorists.
Well, I don't know. You haven't told us what their theories were. Okay? If you told us what their theories were, what their concerns were, and this isn't some kind of justification for blocking ambulances, I'm not quite sure about that one, but just the conspiracy theory alone, you have to tell us what it was. What were people's worries and concerns that they were spouting at you? I mean, was there any justification for them at all? Did time prove out or prove wrong those conspiracy theories? So you're losing it before you've even really begun, dude.
But I do.
Uh-huh.
It was these experiences during the pandemic that made me want to devote my PhD research to understanding how and why people turn to conspiracy theories in order to oppose government policies.
Well, let me tell you something. What you've branded as conspiracy theories in many cases during that time were justifiable and reasonable skepticism and suspicion about what the government was telling people to do, and what the government was telling people was fact. So saying that someone's concern is a conspiracy theory is a dismissive move in the first place. Okay, it diminishes their thoughts, their reasoning, their concerns down to nonsense and fairy tales. So before you've even begun, you have reached a conclusion about the quality of someone's thoughts and concerns before you've even started. How's that? Does that help?
But before I got to empathy, I had to work my way through a range of other feelings first.
Okay, tell me about your feelings. I'll get the couch ready.
Especially when one of my own friends fell deep down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole.
Okay, well, how deep and in what conspiracy theories? I mean, don't get me wrong. There are instances, and plenty of them, where someone really does go completely off the ranch. You're going to have to give us an example.
I knew my friend, Mac, to be a bright and friendly guy.
Right.
Quick to smile, easy to make laugh, But over the course of several months of emails and Zoom chats in the first year of the pandemic,
he started saying things that you didn't like, or
things got dark.
Well, okay. Do you have any, got dark? Okay, when we were being bombarded every day with death tolls and entire families expiring and everybody's grandmother like going away. Can you imagine why that might be?
Fast.
Yeah.
It was like someone had flicked a switch.
Yeah, a lot of people on both sides of the argument, so to speak, had their switches flipped.
In Mac's brain.
Uh-huh.
He believed that as a public health professional, I had been duped into implementing the most diabolical plan to enslave humanity that had ever been conceived.
Well, our entire economy collapsed. People were restricted from earning a living. People were arrested and or cited. Some people over this argument ended up being killed or injured as a result. I don't know. It was a pretty dire time. And everybody in government and public health seemed to be going along with the status quo, either unwilling, unable, or afraid to even question it. So,
Mac, I said one day, why would you believe what some random angry blogger has to say about the pandemic instead of the public health leaders that I know and work with?
Well, okay. Here's a couple of things. And this was my thoughts at the time about a particular issue. When I was told that a vaccine prevents infection, I became dubious. Like, what, vaccine helps the body fight off an infection, doesn't necessarily prevent infection. And I was also told that such a thing had zero long-term side effects as soon as a month after it had been released to the public. And I thought, you can't know that. You might be absolutely right. I remember at the time I said this. I said, you might be absolutely right, but you can't say that with any certitude because there hasn't been anybody who's had it long-term or in multiple instances yet. So when I was hearing things that I knew to be highly questionable and dubious from people who were supposedly the experts or acting on behalf of the experts, our politicians and such, I chose to just wait. And I've been waiting ever since. And I've been fine. Now, that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist or anything else, but I tell you, there's a reason why. Why are you believing some random blogger? Well, why am I believing some random scientist from some organization that I've never heard of before, or that has been bought and paid for by this pharmaceutical industry that just a few months prior to this crisis, we were all on the backs of because of the opioid crisis and any number of other issues with the pharmaceutical industry and truth about products in the past? I don't know. Why would we think that?
Because you're all just following orders.
Well, did you, I guess the question is our speaker a virologist? Or the other word for someone who works with viruses that I can't remember right now? Or is he just a public health official? Is he a doctor? Does he have a PhD? I don't know. Has he done his own research into it? Or is he just repeating the party line? I guess that'd be my question to our speaker.
He replied, you don't see the bigger picture. You don't see what's happening behind the scenes. You need to wake up, man.
Okay. What specifically was he saying was the problem?
Every time I thought I had found something convincing that might, compel Mac to rethink his paranoias about the pandemic,
such as,
he would just reject the legitimacy of my sources.
Well, were you drawing from the same sources? Did you have any independent research or thought of your own on this? Were you just parroting other places?
Or he would counter it with something else that he had read online.
Such as what? Dude, I swear to Christ. I cannot evaluate the legitimacy of his paranoias or your counterpoints unless you tell us what they are. Otherwise, this is a trust me story. And if you can believe it, that was kind of the problem we were having at the time.
And I gotta admit, I found that a little insulting.
Oh, well, wah.
I mean, my professional experience and hard-earned university degrees were worthless in the face of YouTube videos and Facebook groups.
Well, what were your degrees in? I mean, if our guy here is an expert in viruses, then by all means. He's not saying he's an expert in viruses, so... And honestly, no, sorry, a public health degree is not a PhD in biosciences or medicine or anything else. I don't know if our speaker knows that, unless he's got some other credentials he'd like to lay out for us. Simply saying I have a public health degree doesn't honestly mean all that much.
I felt our friendship crumbling.
Okay.
It was surreal. It was disconcerting.
Yeah.
And I will be completely honest, I also found it fascinating.
Well, okay, Mr. Spock, tell us more.
Is that bad?
I mean, in the cold calculations of things, no. I found it grimly fascinating to see the tribalism that built up and the absolute and total death cults online that started being created on both sides of the aisle. If someone passed away, invariably the first question would be, did they or didn't they take the jab? And people were just absolutely salivating with the notion that their side of the argument led to that person's death. Over and over and over again during those years that happened. And it really, I mean, you talk about instances that make you lose your faith in humanity. I had a dire time during those years.
Philosopher Robert Talisse emphasizes how a functioning democracy requires us to disagree respectfully.
Well, if we lived in a democracy, but anyway.
Argue constructively,
yeah,
and avoid what he calls performative or simulated debates.
Why? Why can't I simulate a debate? Ever been to a debate club where somebody just has to take the side of an argument, whether they actually agree with it or not? That's the challenge of the thing. Free speech and competing ideas, whether you believe in them or not, and maybe especially if you don't believe in them, is still a worthwhile conversation or debate. Now, civil discourse, regardless of what someone's faith in the subject matter is, that is important. That's something I'd like to see more of, and definitely went by the wayside during the pandemic years. But yes, civil discourse would be a good thing.
But in order to do this, it really helps to have some shared basic level of reality, that we can start from.
Okay, is that your personally approved basic level of reality, or what are you talking about?
For example, we could at least agree about what it is we're disagreeing about.
Okay, proceed.
And then, maybe take it from there.
Oh, okay, give us an active example of what you're talking about.
But over the last 30 years, our media landscape has evolved to drive us into these echo chambers.
Well, yes, and if you choose to stay within one, that is your choice.
Of divergent records of reality.
And you're immune from this phenomena?
That are constructed and maintained by pundits, politicians, and podcasters. And of course, social media now providing peer networks that will confirm and even stoke our biases.
You don't want to include politicians, health organizations, pharmaceutical companies on that list? And it is a list. So finally, I'm going to circle something on the board. Circling a list on the board. Also going to circle free space. I'm getting ready to circle plays victim. And I'm definitely getting ready to circle leaves out vital context, because it's been long enough.
So scholars like Talisse are growing increasingly concerned about our ability to sustain democracies when the forms of belief polarization or political polarization that we're seeing today are becoming so great that we are no longer seeing those we disagree with as equal partners in the work of democracy,
We're not a democracy. I don't know how to tell you this, but that aside, it sounds a lot like if people are not agreeing with me, then they need to fix themselves. You need to give us active examples of the conflicts you had with your friend. If you don't do that, all I'm hearing is it's my way or the highway.
But enemies, treasonous enemies, or degenerates.
Well, okay, yes, there are extremes on both sides, so be the reasonable moderate here. And tell us what you're talking about. Tell us what your friends said.
Instead.
Yeah,
I've reflected on my experiences with Mac.
What? Jesus. We're always talking about the aftermath. We're not talking about in the middle of. Okay, I need a second. Advocast Diaboli says he tells us people are a threat to democracy. Contradicts the scribe line. Yes, ish. I don't know. My brain is off a little bit. Okay. Let me go to the bingo card real quick. Let's review. Marginalized, self-vilification, or just no. Contradicts own point or argument. Could be. I want to give him a little bit more space to maneuver, though. It's possible he could give us some examples soon. Feminism, microaggressions, contemplated privilege, benevolent condescension. I mean, if nothing else, this either you are on my side and agree on reality, or you're a threat to democracy, or whatever. I'm going to circle benevolent condescension on that one. So got that one there. Weightless example. I mean, his friend Mac is going to be a weightless example on top of leaving out vital context pretty quick. Plays victim a little bit. If he doesn't give us more about his relationship with his friend. Okay. All right, I'll have to look at some more later. All right, let's keep going.
After spending the last few years studying what misinformation and conspiracy beliefs are doing to discourse and democracy.
What misinformation?
And I've come to the following opinion.
Okay, after all your studies of undefined misinformation and unspecified conspiracy theories during the time of the pandemic, when there were extreme conspiracy theories on both sides of the aisle, but it depends on what we're talking about as far as what proved out to be, what opinion did you come to?
Let's dare to call it a hypothesis.
Oh, dare to call it a hypothesis. Okay. I mean, I wouldn't want to try to preemptively dismiss it as a conspiracy theory or something, because that would be impolite. But okay, what's your hypothesis?
And it's this.
Okay.
If it's pointless to debate facts.
If it's pointless to debate facts. Who is saying it's pointless to debate facts? Did Mac not want to debate facts? If he didn't want to debate facts, then why was there a conflict between the two of you? Okay, sorry. If it's pointless to debate facts.
With those who believe conspiracy theories.
It's... Okay. Leaves out vital context. Weightless example. Circling those on the board. You have dismissed whatever is being said, which you haven't specified as conspiracy theories, and if it is pointless to debate facts with conspiracy theories,
then perhaps we should be focusing on having better discussions about the ways that we feel about what's happening in the world today instead.
Okay, so someone is just wrong. Instead, their psychology needs to be examined. So you're giving up, listening to someone else's thoughts, skepticisms, whatever else, and now you're just going to change the conversation over to their emotional state. All right. Well, thank you, Angelverse, for the Hiya lemon person. Oh, it's a lemon person. I don't have a stinger for a lemon person. But in the absence of a stinger for a lemon person, how about a tail teacher? There you go. Thank you, Angelverse. Appreciate it. Yeah, okay. It's pointless to debate facts with a conspiracy theorist, so let's talk about their feelings. You must be psychologically damaged. You can't have a point. You're obviously wrong, so there must be something wrong with your emotional stability.
Even if we live in different worlds,
we don't.
Constructed by alternate facts.
Guess who is constructing a world right now? A world where you are right, and anyone who says anything that you don't agree with or makes you feel bad is obviously wrong and wrong-headed and emotionally damaged. Who's constructing the world right now? Contradicts own point or argument. Circling that one. Right there. Not even willing to concede that some of the quote-unquote conspiracy theories of the time, the lab leak quote-unquote theory, the efficacy of the vaccines, on and on and on, the health risks and so on, that many of those things have proven out to be at least reasonably questionable in the accuracy of what we were told at the time. No, there's just my way or the highway, and anything on the other side of the aisle is obviously wrong, and I just have to examine their feelings. Who's constructing reality again?
We still feel the same feelings. We may experience them differently.
Yes.
But generally speaking, when someone speaks about hope, fear, or love,
they're obviously speaking from a place of emotion and not a place of reason. So when somebody says something I don't like and makes me feel bad, obviously they're wrong because emotions.
We understand what that means. And when facts fail us, the possibility remains that we might relate to each other through these.
It depends on what we are talking about. You can have somebody who is absolutely and totally passionate about a subject that carries no factual weight. I mean, there are real nonsense conspiracy theories out there, whether it's the flat earth or the moon landing or something else. Okay. But unless or until you tell us exactly what happened between you and your friend, all of this means nothing.
If I could put it another way.
Please.
Amidst all the misinformation and disinformation and
such as
conspiracy theories that are just clanging around all over the place.
Such as
right now. If constructive democratic discourse is found less in facts today, perhaps we can find it more in feelings.
You've just restated your previous assertion. Okay, if there is a point, let's try to get to it. If there's an example, could you please give it to us?
My academic discipline of planning.
Academic discipline of planning. Okay.
Similar to public health.
Oh.
Tends to resist bringing emotions and feelings into our work.
Really? Because you felt offended earlier when someone said something that you didn't agree with. Our work, huh? Okay, well, that collectivizes own demographic, circling that one. On the board, our work. The work.
We like to believe that science and rational thinking will provide all answers.
What irrational scientific conclusions did Mac make?
But there are some planners who in recent years have begun to incorporate practices that don't shy away from that realm of emotions and feelings.
Dare you give us an example of what you're talking about now?
One of them is called deep democracy.
Oh my gosh! It's the leading edge of an example. All right, deep democracy. Ooh. Now that's not your phrase, is it? But we'll see how often he attempts to push this one, and it might just be a attempt to coin new buzzword buzz phrase. Okay, what is deep democracy? Is it like deep thinking and deep feeling? Deep democracy.
And it's actually featured in a TEDx Cape Town talk.
What? Oh, man. Well, if I want some more information on deep democracy, I guess I'll have to look that one up. TEDx Cape Town. Keep a note on that one.
Called Mining the Gold of Conflict.
Mining the Gold of Conflict. Sounds like opportunism to me.
With Myrna Lewis.
Okay, well, hey.
As this practice or method first began as a way of working through the trauma and conflict and tension of apartheid and reconciliation in South Africa.
Oh, the truth and reconciliation thing. Yeah, if ever there was a hallmark example of a restorative justice attempt, it was the truth and reconciliation in South Africa. You know, where everybody kind of had their say, the victims said their piece, the perpetrators said their piece, and then everybody went their separate ways. And to a lot of people, it felt completely and absolutely unsatisfying because people who had done wrong things didn't really suffer any real punishments. But okay, tell us about deep democracy from the same place that came truth and reconciliation.
I'm very curious about the potential of dialogic and facilitative methods like deep democracy as a means of addressing the polarization and conflict and tension that's being driven today by misinformation and conspiracy theories.
Obviously so. That was a lot of big words just to say, I'm interested in restorative justice on a societal level. I swear, I thought this would be something completely different, and yet still we come back around effectively to a topic I've covered many times before. That was almost word salad, except for the fact that those were all correct words. They're just really big words, almost performative in a way. You got something you want to give us? Like that's, I don't know, substantive? All right.
And in particular, there's one practice often described in deep democracy as going beneath the surface.
Please tell me you're going to say restorative justice.
Sometimes they say going below the waterline, another way of saying it, where deeper, fundamental issues might lie, or subconscious processes might
unconscious bias. Where are you going?
Be playing out in your conversation.
Yes, unconscious bias. What?
I'll give an example.
What? You're gonna give a what? Oh my. Oh, hold on to your hats, everybody. He's going to give us an example. Okay.
Belief that there are nanobots or microchips in vaccines.
Okay, was this what Mac was promoting? If it was, why didn't you say so?
Put there to control our thoughts.
Okay, yes, that would be something that would be off the deep end. Is that what the deep part of deep democracy is? Okay, but all right, hypothetically speaking, or hypothetically speaking, let's say someone pushed that in front of you. What would your response be?
Might seem paranoid or irrational to some of us.
Yes.
But anxieties about putting something that you don't know a lot about or don't understand a lot about into your body is arguably not.
You're correct. And as time has proven out, it also seems like it wasn't understood by the people that were pushing it at the time either. Nanobots aside. But hey, all right. So fundamentally, yes, putting some rushed into production, slapdash, badly understood, and without any kind of long-term study type of material into your body on the say-so of politicians and pharmaceutical companies, yeah, there might be some hesitancy there. And yes, people might take that suspicion a bit to the extreme. But yes, okay, there's a common denominator there. So what is your approach to such a situation?
For many, it comes down to an issue of trust.
You're not just whistling Dixie. So how do you resolve that?
Do I trust the doctor, the scientist, a government regulator, policymaker telling me that this newly approved vaccine is safe and effective.
That's right. Why should I trust them with such a short lead up time when the vaccines that addressed other diseases in the past took years to develop? And the process of developing a vaccine really hasn't changed all that much in that time. But all of a sudden, within less than a year, suddenly there's something there, and we're told it's 100% safe, 100% effective, no long-term effects. Sounds almost too good to be true. I can't imagine why anybody would think so, but you know, it might sound that way. Obviously, it's a conspiracy theory.
Or do I believe this celebrity, this politician?
Well, there were politicians on both sides of the argument here, weren't there?
This random person I'm enjoying my interaction with on this online chat room.
Okay, dude, who are, prior to that event, absolutely unknown, unseen, and unheard of before public health officials and pharmaceutical representatives to anyone else? They are random people telling you that everything's going to be fine. Do you see the difference here? Now, setting aside the specificity of there are nanobots in the vaccine, just a trust me story from people you've never seen before, you have no reason to believe, you have every reason to think they may have ulterior motives to telling you these things, whether it's a profit motive or a power motive or otherwise. Do you not see the problem here? You're saying that everybody on your side is obviously right and everybody on their side is obviously wrong. But you want to say that you're empathetic? If you cannot see the similarities between the two sides here, I don't know what to tell you.
We've come to appreciate more and more today that it's not just what is being said, but who is saying it can have.
You're correct. If someone's credibility is in question to the point where I'm not sure I want to take their advice on a medical decision, whose decision should that be?
Have profound consequences for how people receive and respond to information. In looking back at my email exchanges with Mac.
Okay, so you're looking back in time with the hindsight of what's happened since. What did Mac say? What were Mac's concerns specifically?
That's when I began to think about things like deep democracy and other facilitative and dialogic approaches.
Okay, you've said those words twice now. You have not described what deep democracy is. You have to describe. Okay, you're bringing up all these things and you're not giving us any specifics. What did he say? How did they measure up against the information at the time and how things have been proven out since? What is deep democracy and how is it supposed to work?
Because I could see that in our email exchanges, it was clear we were living in different worlds.
Obviously so. What worlds were you living in? Could you at least give, I don't know, a name to them?
Regarding our experience of the pandemic.
Like?
But we shared many of the same feelings.
Like what?
Fear.
You don't say.
About getting sick.
Oh, wow, gosh. You know, and obviously that kind of thinking only happened during the pandemic.
Anxiety about whether things would ever go back to normal.
Wow, yeah, And what did Mac believe?
Fatigue from staying home for so long. Everything's closed, social distancing.
Yeah, it almost feels like everybody was controlling your lives and determining your future for you outside of your own control. Gosh, I guess Mac's fears about, you know, a police state or some kind of like, you know, soft martial law were just completely unjustified, huh?
And of course, hope that we might be reconnected with friends, family, and fun.
Yeah, and who was preventing us from doing all that? And on what basis? And how did that turn out in the long run on a factual basis? Tell me something, public health official. The wisdom and the efficacy of the lockdowns, how has that been proven out on reflection after the fact? You got anything to say about what we know now? And you know what? I'll extend you the benefit of the doubt. A lot of things that we didn't know then that we know now, but on reflection, was there any justifiable basis for any of Mac's concerns on reflection? Can you at least address that?
Our conversation took a turn for the better.
How?
When we stopped arguing about facts.
Sure. Yeah. When it was obvious you weren't listening to him, you weren't going to tolerate or entertain anything he had to say, and you're basically calling him a Looney Tune, I'm sure.
And instead started acknowledging the feelings that we had about government, power, freedom, our bodies, and technology.
Okay, and what conclusions did you come to from these concerns on Mac's end that were entirely emotionally based, but had no basis in fact or reality?
In a more general sense, instead of whether 5G cell towers were spreading the virus or the World Economic Forum had planned the whole thing in advance.
Well, on that latter one, have you listened to the WEF over the last few years? But okay, so by implication, if not by actual specificity here, Mac apparently, and I'm just guessing, believed in the nanobots, the 5G, and the WEF, as far as those things. Okay, well, nanobots and 5G, yeah, okay. Not a whole lot of basis in fact, observable or otherwise, okay. The WEF, you might have something there. But of course, you haven't said that that's what Mac was saying. You've just implied that that's what he was saying. So I still don't know.
I've had a chance to replicate what I've learned, in my exchanges with Mac.
What is deep democracy? You can't just bring this stuff up. Okay. Let's see. Well, I am in a circle attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase because he's mentioned a couple of times now. I'd never heard of it before, but okay. He's trying to push it, so circling that one. Well, and also I'm going to circle argumentative non sequitur if he does not define that term or come back to it.
And others during the pandemic in everyday conversations since.
Okay.
And I'm hopeful.
Wow.
That this practice of going beneath the surface and trying to connect at a more emotional level.
Okay, so as far as I can understand it, deep democracy is I'm going to ignore what you say and try to find common ground on an emotional level that doesn't actually address your concerns, but allows me to avoid any kind of argumentative conflict and just find common ground without actually dealing with the issues or trying to have a debate about reality. I want to avoid an actual conflict where I have to justify my position. And instead, let's just find the lowest common denominator of relationship between me and the other person. That's what it sounds like to me. Now that may be a cynical interpretation. I'd love to have some more clarification here. Do I have any hope that our speaker is going to give it to us? Not especially. I'm sure that's just a conspiracy theory on my part, not a matter of observable evidence or anything.
Regarding conspiracy theories and paranoias about what's happening in the world.
Again, you're immediately dismissing people's concerns by saying that they are fantasy before even entertaining them, but okay.
Might lead us back to better discussions.
Better discussions, avoiding the actual facts of the matter. Yeah, I'm sure that'll be very productive over time.
As friends, family, and colleagues, if not as a country. One can dream big, right?
Well, yes. If we ignore reality and focus on our individual feelings, then I suppose that would be an easier conversation for you.
So if you find yourself frustrated with the conversations that you're having with someone in your life,
or the lectures I'm being given being talked down to as though my rational concerns are just a product of my emotional instability, and really let's talk about your feelings and not your worries.
Who believes conspiracy theories.
Conspiracy theories.
If you worry that you're losing them to some dark, paranoid, alternate reality, here's an exercise.
Oh, an exercise. Oh boy, jumping jacks, bicycle kicks. What can I do if I think someone that I care about is being lost to a conspiracy theory, because I've already decided it's a conspiracy theory, even if it's something that might have some basis in reality. Yeah. Well, okay. What do I do?
Reality.
Mm-hmm.
Here's an exercise you can try.
Mm-hmm.
I call it distillation.
Okay. Well, if I didn't already circle attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase, now we do. Okay. Distillation. Okay. So distill. What happens when you distill something? Right? Like you distill water, right? You boil water and you have the steam come up out into a tube, and it condensation takes place and it drips down into another container, and now you have distilled water, right? You've boiled away all of the impurities and everything else. Okay, golly, I wonder what this new buzzword or buzz phrase could mean to a conversation with someone who you believe is off in la la land, whether they are or not. So you're going to give us exactly what you've already told us, right? Setting aside the facts and getting to the feelings, right? Filtering out the detritus of your wrong think and get down to a common denominator where I can be the good guy. I can be the peacemaker, where I'm really talking to the person and not the paranoia.
The next time they say something that to you sounds like a wild and outlandish conspiracy theory to just explain something that's going on in the world.
Right. Sounds to you.
A natural disaster, an election outcome.
Yeah.
Where's the Princess of Wales?
Okay.
Just take a breath. Just
take a breath, because obviously your emotional state is so fragile that anybody that says something that you don't agree with, oh my God. Okay. Center yourself. Center yourself. Okay. And then
stop for a minute and distill what they're saying down to the most basic fundamental feelings that you can identify in their statements.
Right. Ignore what they're saying entirely. Right. Yeah. Reduce it to an emotional state. And then?
Is it about losing freedom?
Maybe it is. What are we talking about? And is there any real world event taking place that might be underpinning that belief?
Is it about making uncomfortable changes, or the uncertainties and unknowns that come with those potential changes?
I don't know. Is it? Could you give us an example? Is it so impossible for you to give us an example? So far, we've had nanobots, 5G, and the WEF. I mean, honestly, the three, well, maybe at least two, most extreme paranoias about what was going on during the pandemic. But they weren't the most common. That's the thing. They might have been the most outlandish, but they weren't the most common. It's interesting to me that he hasn't talked about any of the common, quote-unquote, conspiracy theories that everyone was being zapped for on online platforms, YouTube, and otherwise for years, until evidence came out that maybe it wasn't so out of hand.
Is it about fairness and the outsized influence of elites?
It could be. I mean, because obviously we didn't see the elites in our world acting far differently and having far different consequences befall them when they broke the rules, when they violated the policies. Obviously, there's absolutely no reason to believe there was a disparity in power outside the realm of reason during that time. But, obviously that's all just a conspiracy theory.
In policy making.
Yeah.
Or, and hear me out with the,
I am doing nothing but hearing you out at a halting pace, because YouTube doesn't let me play these things for very long without risking getting zapped. So
this one.
Yeah. Okay.
Is it about coping, or maybe even having fun, laughing in the face of an absurd and chaotic universe in a world that does not make sense, where inexplicable things happen, Sometimes it just feels good to have any explanation.
Yeah. Well, then I guess I guess you have to dissuade yourself of anybody's religious beliefs. Certainly, either now or in the past. Yeah. So you can just laugh it off. It's like, oh yeah. I mean, really, I understand where you're coming from, dude. I mean, the world's a chaotic place. Your concerns are really just, just sort of like a dark comedy catharsis. It's fine. I get it. I understand. I'm not being dismissive or anything. I'm not trying to avoid actually having a conversation. No, I get it. I get it. It's just, in the absence of a world of reason, sometimes it just feels good to be unreasonable, isn't it? I know it's fine, dude. That's fine. Let's talk about your feelings.
Instead of none at all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No matter how absurd it might be.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, there's a lot of that in this world. It's true. It's true. Yeah. And you're immune from all of this, of course. Right?
You might find that it's possible to validate or acknowledge the way that they feel.
Sure. Without actually giving any credence to their statements of belief.
Without having to validate or acknowledge the truthfulness or accuracy of their claims.
I was close.
And hopefully uncover some common ground on which you might build a better conversation.
Right. By avoiding the conversation and implying that they're just emotionally a wreck, and that's fueling any of their concerns, which are obviously not reasonable, then yeah, that's a better conversation. Okay. You're not talking down to them in a super convoluted, polite way.
I believe that if we cannot understand or accept the alternative facts that those who believe conspiracy theories give for what goes on in the world.
Yeah, because it's all nonsense. There's never been a justified one that's turned out over the course of time at all. The origin, the efficacy of the medicine, none of these things. They were all conspiracy theories. They were all unjustified.
That we should try to understand and accept the emotions and feelings behind those beliefs.
Yeah, okay. You've gone over this like 5 or 6 times now. I get it. Okay.
Because in doing so, we can make it clear to those in our lives who believe conspiracy theories.
Who are obviously just completely off their rocker, and we're going to just, infantilize them. Yeah.
That even though we might doubt or reject their conspiracist claims,
again, you keep putting a brand on these things and dismissing it. A conspiracy theory now is synonymous with just fantasy and insanity, right? In fantasy, fansanity. I don't know. Either way. So you are presupposing that whatever they have to say that you don't agree with is utter and total nonsense. And again, the only examples you've brought up are 3 of perhaps the most extreme and potentially fantastical conspiracy theories during that time, but not the most common ones. But anyway.
That we are not rejecting them as people.
If you're saying that they are emotionally broken for what they think, then you kind of are.
Or the legitimacy of their feelings.
Well, if their beliefs, which you say are wrong, are being fueled by their feelings, then their feelings must also be ill-informed. Or am I missing this trail of logic?
The health of our democracy.
Oh, Jesus.
If not at least the civility of our Thanksgiving dinners, might just depend on it. Thank you.
Okay, well, that was a 5-minute talk given about 3 different times for a total of just under 15 minutes. Didn't resolve anything, didn't give any active examples. How did Mac react to this theory of deep democracy? However that's supposed to relate to interpersonal conflicts, I don't know. Where's the democracy in that? It just sounds like armchair psychology. Either way, I don't know that I learned much. which is, not exactly surprising. This is TEDx after all, but okay. So I think I was supposed to learn something about how to deal with or how to approach someone who is saying something completely wackadoodle, but still trying to maintain a relationship with them because their friendship is more important than a disagreement over something. Okay, on that score, I can kind of empathize. Let me give you an example. I will give you an example, unlike our speaker. I had a friend, and I say had in the past tense. I've talked about this person before. This is the person who I effectively lost as a friend around the time of the 2016 election because I stated I was not going to vote for either candidate. And for reasons that still bewilder me to this day, but a little bit, not so much. Because I wasn't voting for Hillary, I was de facto supporting Trump, and supporting Trump was evil. And even though I explained I'm not voting for either candidate, so you could say the exact same thing that I'm supporting Hillary by not voting for Trump, didn't matter. Our friendship died as a result of that. This same friend of mine, she would sometimes call me up in the middle of the night, absolutely hysterical, with her mind racing over multiple different things happening at that one time in her head. She was worried about, her job. She was worried about money. She was worried about or feeling the grief over the death of a loved one from years prior, a whole bunch of different things. And in a way, I had to practice something similar to what our speaker's talking now, or I did my best to. Now, I'm not a trained psychologist or anything, but the routine or the method that I worked out with my friend was she was in a state of disorder. And the only thing that helped calm her down was to try to put things into a kind of order. And so she'd call me up and she'd just be hyperventilating and sobbing and everything else. So the first step was, okay, I need you to calm down and take a deep breath. I can't understand what you're saying. So just let's take a minute and just calm down. And that would get her to, kind of calm down for a second. Okay, tell me what's bothering you. And she would, of course, just go off into a litany of different things. And in my mind, I would start marking these things off as sort of a psychological triage. I'd say to myself, is this something that can be addressed? Yes or no? If no, I'm not even going to mention it again. So like the death of her loved one. I was like, nothing is going to change that. There's nothing I can say here that's going to alleviate that. So we're just going to pretend like that's not even an issue. What can be addressed? What can be discussed? What can have a plan arranged for it? And so eventually, you kind of whittle things down to what is addressable and what isn't, and focus on those things that can be addressed and start putting those things into a kind of order. Okay, you've got bills coming up and so on and so forth. All right. Do you have anything you can sell? Do you have any subscriptions you can cancel? That kind of thing. Start making a plan. Start putting some kind of rational, tangible elements into finding a solution to these things. And that would tend to bring things to a point where she was back at a area of stability. So I can kind of understand the concept, and I've kind of practiced it in my own life before. But in this instance, him not telling us what he's talking about, him not giving us specific examples, or even, clarified hypotheticals as I've just done, tells me nothing. It's like, okay, so this guy tells you, I'm going to assume, that 5G is causing people to get sick. Okay, and you're a public health expert, apparently. And you tell him, no, there's no evidence for that. And he's like, no, this guy on this blog said this and everything else. And you're just like, well, you just say, as far as we know, that is not the case, and there's no evidence for it. So can we talk about something else? It's or just like we're going to have to agree to disagree. I can't do anything about it. There's nothing to be done. Let's just, hey, how are the kids doing? You want to hang out for a football game? I mean, I'm not quite sure what this whole deep democracy method was supposed to do without him telling us how he was doing it. So if Matt calls him up and says, hey, I'm calling you on a payphone because I don't want to risk adding to the 5G problem. How do you address that? How do you approach that conversation? What is your method? What worked? I mean, I guess my ultimate question is, given it's the primary example, how is your relationship with Mac now? And or how did it have to change over the course of this crisis? Don't know. Didn't find out, wasn't told. Either way, I'm going to go back to the bingo card. I'm going to go over it one more time by myself. If you have arguments for squares to be circled, hold on to them. I'll get to you momentarily. Marginalization. Certainly, anybody who was going off on 5G and nanobots and everything else was definitely on the margins, and justifiably or otherwise were being marginalized. Self-vilification or wretchedness. And there's a plane going off overhead. Ooh, it's really loud. I don't know if you guys can hear that. It must be really close. I hope not dangerously close. Let's see, self-vilification. I don't know that I heard anything self-vilifying. I mean, being a little self-deprecating does not mean like I'm part of the problem. So maybe not. Feminism, no. Microaggressions or unconscious bias. Certainly the idea of unconscious bias was put in there, especially when talking about whatever deep democracy was and taking deep breaths and everything else. Privilege. I might need an argument on that one. Plays victim. Yeah, somebody said something that he doesn't like. He has to take a deep breath and try to rationalize with them because they're obviously off their rocker. It's a heavy burden that he has to bear, I guess. Let's see, economic disparity. No, I don't think he brought up anything like that. Argumentative non sequitur. Deep democracy. It didn't tell us how that was supposed to work. It didn't. What was democratic about it? Deep democracy. I don't even know what that means. Mind reading or assumes motives. Yes, obviously someone who says something that you don't agree with or you don't have the same belief as is obviously off their rocker, emotionally unstable, and is getting all their information from crazy sources. Patriarchy, no. Anecdote that probably never happened. Okay, this is a tough one. I don't have any reason to think that wherever he was working and otherwise wasn't the subject of protests. I was trying to think when he said people trying to block ambulances. I was trying to think, did I read a story about that years ago? I was reaching back in my mind, like, was this a Lords of the Night thing or something? I mean, I have a very maybe vague recollection of such a story. So I don't know that that was an anecdote that never happened. But was there anything he said that was obviously untrue or, very questionable? I don't know. He didn't give us enough detail about Mac. He didn't give us enough detail about what happened at his offices. I can't say they were completely false. And that also goes towards a different square either way, leaves out vital context. So an anecdote, it has to be something specific. Did you give us a specific anecdote that I think was too good to be true or something? I'm not sure. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm actually surprised he didn't bring that up. White supremacy, he didn't bring up race. Childhood or family anecdote. I don't think he ever brought up his childhood or his family. He brought up his friend Mac. He brought up his professional life. I don't think he ever talked about his family. Systemic or institutional? Yes. Well, we're talking about the government and policies and so on, at least in spirit, if not those specific words. So I'll circle that one. Sales pitch for product or service. Well, except for talking about his profession or his academic training. He didn't name the organization that he worked for. He didn't recommend a book. And deep democracy isn't a product or a service. So I don't think so. And lastly, word salad. Yeah, you know what? The first time that he started talking about dialectic interrogatives or whatever, okay, fine. And then he repeated it again later. And of course, again, he made the same point or tried to multiple times over the course of the deal. So, and not clarifying anything. Yeah. So anyway, that's the card as I have it. We are on the verge of a couple of bingos, depending on your arguments. So put them in the chat now. Remember, there's a bonus video I have for us after we're done with the bingo card for this special Independence Day. So scrolling up a bit. Let's see. Dances with Aardvarks, plane or drone? Well, I'm hoping plane. Shady Grin, Scribelight, payphones don't exist anymore. I disagree. I bet they're out there somewhere. And that might be a conspiracy theory. Let's talk about my emotions regarding payphones. They're deeply rooted with heroism. Can you imagine why? I think you can. Advocast Diabli, deep democracy. When the old ones rise up from the sea and Cthulhu does a book reading, it would drive us less insane than the average TEDx. That's possible. That's possible. The deep ones democracy. What is the deep ones democracy? Well, it's usually the esoteric order of Dagon and sacrificing people to Father Dagon. But anyway, let's see. Assassin of the Great. We have no reason to believe his conspiracy friend even exists. I don't know that I want to go that far. I don't want to go that far. I know. I question that Mac exists. It's possible. It's possible. Abgastively. I mean, protesters have blocked ambulances. Is usually protesters of a different kind. Yeah, I remember stories of protesters for Black Lives Matter and other things clogging up the freeways and the roads to the point where ambulances couldn't get through. But was there a story about people actively blocking, like intentionally blocking ambulances from getting to hospitals or medical centers on the basis of some pandemic era conspiracy? That part I'm not so sure about. I mean, it's possible that it happened. I just don't remember that. I mean, I've seen plenty of videos and stories about people trying to get to emergencies or trying to get to work or ambulances trying to get through the roads and, protesters clogging everything up. But Zed Hero, the nanobots and 5G probably never happened. He was probably lumping them in to make Mac sound more crazy. Well, that's the thing, is that he never said explicitly, this is what Mac was telling me. He just listed off these things. And by association, I guess I was supposed to believe that's what Mac was telling him. So I guess. Mark Smart, I feel like the email back and forth is just a story that never happened. It may be believable, but too vague. Well, that's the problem here, is that since he didn't give us any specifics, he just said, I had these exchanges, I had these conversations, and he would say things that just didn't make sense. It's hard for me to assess, is it an anecdote that's just too good to be true? It doesn't actively support his argument because he leaves out so much context. It's actually bad for his presentation. It doesn't sound too perfect. It doesn't sound too over the top because he doesn't tell us anything. That's the disconnect I'm having. But I'm open to anybody else who has an argument elsewise. Let's see. Scrolling. And if I miss anything, guys, please just repost them. Zed again. I don't remember blocking ambulances. I remember protesting in Australia blocking traffic. Right. Yeah, I remember ambulances being blocked as a result of protests. I don't remember anything specifically about ambulances being targeted for restricting their movement. Advocasigalan, there were ambulances that were protested during the shutdown that said ambulances were blocked. Emphasis on they said. Okay. Well, maybe, yeah, because of everything that he said, that was the one thing that caught my eye. Like people protesting medical centers and hospitals and things like that or whatever. Yeah, sure. I remember things like that. It's the ambulance part that I'm not sure. Assassin the Great. The entire premise about the friend is too good to be true. That fits in perfectly with his glowies conduct. Okay, so I guess the question is by not specifying the friend's actual arguments, is that just an anecdote that probably never happened because he's hiding? I mean, he's not hiding something, but he's being awfully vague and not telling us what the actual conversations were. So in the inverse of it, does the absence of details make Mac an anecdote that probably never happened? That's not a bad argument. Yeah, because not presenting us with more information makes it impossible to tell whether or not any of that is relevant or even believable, right? I'm sure we've had this kind of quandary before, but it's not a bad one. And so, as a consequence,
bingo. What? Bingo! Yeah! Of course!
All right, we have our first bingo. Might not be the last. I'll give another couple of minutes here for any arguments that you have for squares to be circled. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, the question over the existence or accuracy and description of Mac has been addressed. Does anybody have any other arguments for squares to be circled? And then I'll get ready. A couple of notes, a couple of free previews here for those of you listening. I am currently in the process, and I've already decided on the subject and the format for the next Living on Borrowed Crime panel discussion that will be taking place late this month. I have a date already selected. I'm waiting to hear back from my invitees as to whether or not that date and time is going to work for the majority. So holding off on that. The one thing I'll say is I'm reticent to leave anybody out from invitation, but for as many people as I sent the invitation to, if everybody says yes, and I've said this to Dave of Dave's Lemonade, this might end up being less a panel discussion and more a true crime summit. So I guess we'll just have to see. But that will be granted that it doesn't conflict with too many people's schedules. Later this month, the last week or so of the month, thereabouts, I will let you guys know more as things develop. Lexi Mads, I am here, by the way. Got here late, so, well, I don't know what to tell you. Were you dealing with election night stuff? I mean, I don't know. Lexi, are you British in some fashion? Or are you UKer? Or something? I mean, just tell me about your avatar. I don't know. I mean, you might also be like a one-eyed green Martian woman. Maybe that's a good excuse. If that's the case, that's a good excuse. Let's see. Advocast Diaboli, the tangent of deep democracy in South Africa as it relates to the apartheid white supremacy. But but what? Okay, here's my pushback. And I know. I might have to get down to the source of your feelings, Advocatus, in this discussion. But here's my pushback. But was white supremacy an element of his presentation? Deep democracy may have been something employed in Truth and Reconciliation, but was the subject of white supremacy actually an element of his argument or his presentation? It seemed to me that deep democracy was an outgrowth of an unrelated situation, similar only in the sense that it was a deep-seated disagreement. But it wasn't about race. So that's answer that one, and we'll see. Also, Shady Grin, happy 4th of July, Scribe. Happy 4th of July to everybody else, too. Again, as you can see from the overlay, I am very patriotic today. Let's see, Lexi Matt's kind of. That's a lime. Oh, it's a lime? I thought it was like a Marvin the Martian girlfriend or something. Since I'm a limey. Oh, and a yank since 20. Ooh, you're like, wait. You defected? Lexi Mads. Oh my God. Limey yank. That sounds like something that adults do in private time. Anyway, let's see. Simon Willikins. I'm currently in the process of laying on my bed with both my windows open and my fan on. I don't think he talked much about white supremacy. Yeah, I get what Advocatus is saying, but unfortunately, a sidewise mention does not an argumental element make. Argumental? How about argumentative? That's probably a better word. Let's try to use our word scribe just a little bit. Argumental. Mark Smart, traitor. No. Lexi just knows which side of the bread is buttered on. That's all. Now, like I said, tangent. Yeah, I don't think it quite reached. I get where you're coming from, and it's but I think it's just a reach too far. Okay, so I think I'm going to call it there for the bingo card. If any other arguments pop up in your minds as we proceed in the next video or otherwise, I'll entertain a couple after we're done with it, but I think we'll leave it there. So one bingo, potentially others. Also, for anybody watching in the future, if you have arguments for squares to be circled after the fact, you can always leave a comment. And if it is an argument that I can agree with, you may end up with a square circled post-mortem, so to speak. And if it does reach a bingo, well, then I'll make sure to note that on the Discord server. By the way, and I'll put this up again later just for reference, if you'd like to join the Discord, there's a link in the chat. I'll do my Discord spiel later. But before we do that, I have a bonus video. Yes, a bonus video. A bonus video for the 4th of July. A brief, 4-minute presentation from a organization, channel, something called inclusology. Inclusology. I don't know if there is a author of a book who is currently living on a ship in the middle of open seas that is behind this, but either way, we're going to listen to this. And the title of this is "That's Racist AF, Stop Saying It. Best Inclusive Practices to Address Racist Language." All in 4 minutes. All right, are you guys ready? We're ready. Okay, so inclusology, that's racist AF. Not Axel Foley, mind you, but AF.
What's up, everyone?
What's up? Well, the 4th of July and fireworks are up.
Welcome back to Inclusology's e-learning platform.
Ooh, an e-learning platform. I love e-learning platforms. In fact, every platform I learn from now is E in some way, shape, or form. I think it's unavoidable these days, but okay, yeah.
My name is Danny.
Hi, Danny.
And my pronouns are she and her.
And it sounds like there's a motorcycle behind you. All right, hi, Danny.
And I identify as a Black woman.
Oh my gosh. Did you have to go to school for that?
Today, I'm going to be facilitating an informational video about the best inclusive language practices to address racist language.
All right. Well, that's what I'm here to learn. What are the best inclusive practices to address racist language? Oh, also, by the way, even though assassin, the bingo card does not apply to this. This is not a bingo card thing. This is just for fun, maybe? I don't know.
Meaning, I'm going to give you a few examples of what to say and what not to say when speaking, writing, signing, or communicating.
Oh, you know what? After the absolute desert of examples that was the TEDx we just watched, I am happy to hear some active examples for improving my communication skills.
That way, we respect everyone's identity.
You mean their names?
Okay.
Okay.
You got it?
Do I got it? Boy, you know, that seems to be like a tagline of somebody. I got it. Yeah, okay.
Now let's get to it.
All right. Ah! Oh. That scared me. That sound effect scared me. I'm like, ah. Okay, as I thought, what did I rip? Did I flex too hard and my Hawaiian shirt popped a stitch or something? Okay, the best inclusive language practices to address racism. All right, guys, are you ready? Here we go. Okay.
First up,
yes.
Let's discuss the term blacklist.
Well, you might want to take that up with, what was it, NBC? They did like 7 seasons of a show. Okay, all right, let's, I haven't watched this, by the way. All right, let's talk about the term blacklist.
We need to stop saying that term.
Oh, okay. Sure.
The reason this term is offensive is due to it referring to the color black as being banned.
Okay. Well, what is the origin of that term? All right. What is the origin of that term to begin with? I mean, and if I say, like in an accounting sense, if I say that I'm in the black versus in the red, that has a positive connotation. So should I not say that then? Because a color absent a relation to a person's appearance or just a moniker we put on person's appearances because, okay, anyway, yeah, so it denotes something negative. Right. Okay.
Now, when we think about the history of segregation,
the term blacklist doesn't immediately make me think of the history of segregation. It makes me think of the Hollywood blacklist during the 50s and 60s, with anybody that was either a communist or believed to be a communist was put on a blacklist. That's what I think of. And in fact, most of the people put on the blacklist were white people, but Okay.
And racism in this country,
Uh-huh.
we probably shouldn't be using that term.
Probably shouldn't? Okay.
Instead, let's try block list.
Blocked list or denied list.
Or denied list.
Oh, okay. All right. Uh-huh.
Make sense?
You sure?
Okay.
Okay.
Moving on.
All right.
Next up
yes.
is a term in the same category.
Is it whitelist?
Whitelist.
Obviously, we can't say that because that makes white a good thing.
Which means to be granted access.
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to repeat what I just said about blacklist.
Oh, okay.
Because this also falls into the category of access and race in our country.
Oh, it does? I mean, if you say so.
Instead, just say approved list or allowed list.
Man, it doesn't have the same ring to it, though, does it?
Let's start naming things after the outcome and not an identity.
It's not talking about an identity. You are projecting an identity onto unrelated terms. And in fact, making race an identity is kind of a bad idea to begin with. I don't know if you know where racial identitarianism leads. You've already talked a little bit about it in a historical sense. Why perpetuate that way of thinking? I can't imagine.
The next term is one that really hit close to home.
Okay, I can't even imagine. Let's see. Wait, blacklist, whitelist. Blackout, like as in power goes out, or bingo, or something, or black site, with like the CIA.
And that's master and slave.
Well, I mean, I'd rather play master and servant, but to each their own. Do you want to talk about any other, I don't know, historical locations where slavery was rampant and the physical appearance of those that were practicing it, either on the North American continent or the African continent throughout history?
People use this term to describe commands, lists, real estate, and more.
Oh, I see. So in those terms, more. Yeah, there's a more in there that I have some personal experience with, but yeah, okay, sure. Uh-huh.
This refers to a master who owned slaves and their living quarters and dominant status.
Okay, so you'd probably prefer something like, supervisor and subordinate, maybe something like that.
Instead, try using words like primary, secondary, or standby.
I mean, I usually hear, well, at least in relation to what I'm talking about, the primary, secondary, as far as like some kind of polyamorous situation, but I mean, it really depends on the context. I could try that, I suppose. Hey, I'm your primary, you're my secondary. Yes, primary. Good thing, secondary. Now, on your knees. Yes, primary. Doesn't really, it doesn't have the same emotional impact, just.
It's not offensive.
I mean, it's kind of condescending and accusatory.
Another term that is commonly used is black hat hacker.
Black hat hacker. Oh, okay. What is your alternative for this?
Meaning unethical.
Yeah, and where does that come from, by the way? Oh, that's right. It comes from the old Western movies where you could tell who the bad guy was because he wore a black hat, and the good guy would wear a white hat. And why would they do that? Because it wasn't color film, and it more easily identified to the audience the difference between good and evil. And it was the color of the fabric of the hat It wasn't a comment on anybody's skin color, but okay, you've decided to, all right.
Meaning unethical.
Yeah.
Again, referring to something negative with the color black, and on the opposite side is white hat hacker.
Yeah,
referring to a hacker that is ethical and moral.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you know why the absence of light has a chilling connotation to most people? It's called the darkness. And no, not believing in a thing called love, but simply darkness. And the sun out, and then there's no light. Fear versus the known. These are fundamental lizard brain ways of thinking about things. Instinctual. It is not about skin color. You want it to be about skin color. You're making it about skin color and identity, but it's not.
Instead, use words like unethical and ethical hacker.
Unethical hacker. Yeah, but it doesn't sound as cool, does it? What about a red hat? You want to talk about a red hat? What does that say?
Terms like ethical and unethical are more inclusive and not racist.
The terms themselves aren't racist. You are imparting a racist connotation on them all on your own. You know, I don't know what to tell you.
The last word in this episode is...
Oh, this is the last... Oh, wow. Time has flown. Holy cats. All right. What is the last word?
It's grandfathered.
Grandfathered? Grandfathered. Okay. I'm honestly perplexed. What is racist about this one?
Referring to something or someone that is legacy.
Well, yes. If I was grandfathered into a program because I signed, well, let's say there was a change in contractual terms, but I signed up under a certain set of rules. And so my terms would be grandfathered into the new system, even if they were technically out of whack or something. Yeah, okay. That's kind of what I think when I think of like grandfathered in or something, is that, you know, there was a merger of some kind or a transition of some kind, and some things were carried over. And okay, this is racist.
This term is sexist.
It's sexist.
And gender exclusive.
It's an abstraction. It's shorthand. Okay, so you're, I don't know. What is your alternative? Like legacy status?
Instead, use the term legacy.
All right. You know, it's also straight centric. You can't become a grandfather unless you engaged, and just say, yeah, it's all sorts of things, or it's homophobic. It's either homophobic or like straight supremacist or something, right?
It has the same meaning and is less offensive.
Well, you know, legacy something is used quite a lot too. You know, like a legacy hire, right? I think that's even a term in police or something, where like if you are the child of a police officer and you become a police officer, you're referred to as a legacy. You know, and that's not necessarily a positive or negative connotation. It all depends on everything. It's just that's the fact of things. Okay, so I mean, you know, but grandfathered is bad. Can't say grandfathered anymore. Oh, okay. I might offend a feminist or something. Okay.
Okay, y'all got it?
Oh, I got it. Hey, it's my catchphrase, or used to be anyway.
If not, watch this video again.
Oh, I don't need to.
Or go back to the dashboard and click on part 2 of this series.
Oh, there's a part 2? Oh man, this is a series? Am I going to have to make this sort of like the Looney Tunes cartoon in front of every movie, like in the olden days? Oh boy.
Hopefully this has been a helpful video for you all.
I mean, it has been informative. Of everything on your list, I had never considered grandfathered as a problem. Admittedly, I didn't really think of any of the other terms as problems, but Okay.
And last but not least,
Oh.
use Inclusology's platform to measure equity and inclusion in your workplace through the lens of our community.
Oh, so you have like a metric tool or something, sort of like a bridge to measure inclusion. I'm gonna have to, I just found this randomly. I'm gonna have to look more into inclusology. Is it an actual business or something? I don't know.
I hope this has been helpful.
Oh yeah.
Continue to work on becoming more inclusive in your workspace.
I am trying every day. I just found out today. I mean, unbeknownst to me, and came quite as a shock. There's apparently, my Discord server is apparently just sick with weebs. Oh my God. But hey, each to own. I'm inclusive. If that's your thing, I'm not going to judge you. Not at all. No, just ask Satsu. I don't judge weebs. Whatever floats your proverbial boat. That's fine. It's fine. I'm inclusive, you see.
And if you need more tips, there are more videos to guide you through this process.
Oh, thank goodness. Well, that'll leave me with plenty of content fodder for the future. Thank you.
Once again, I'm Danny.
Hi, Danny.
And I'll catch you later.
Okay. I can't wait. Follow Inclusology on all social media. Oh, boy. That's a lot of platforms. Boy, oh, boy, everybody. Boy, oh, boy. All right. Well, there you go. Inclusology, a new entry into the pantheon of subject matter and sources that I'll probably look at in the future. Aren't you glad? I'm glad too. Now I'll take a minute here for any other comments or things you'd like to put in here. Miranda Stone, I wish she made candles. I feel like she'd be good at it. Sure. Why not? I just can't help myself. I mean, I put a lot of work into that. So I got to use it more than once. It's fine. It's my show. Zed Hero, is Grinder in there? I don't know. Let's see. What can I identify? I can identify Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, TikTok, Reddit, Snapchat, Spotify. Oh gosh, is that Threads? I can't tell. Yeah, a whole bunch of YouTube. Yeah, obviously YouTube. A bunch of things on there. Yeah, all over the place. All over the place. Let's see. All right, let me give out the Discord link one more time here before I forget. So I'm putting the Discord link in the chat. If you'd like to join the Discord server, all you have to do is click on that link. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me that you actually watched the stream, are not a bot, and have earned the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. And today's secret word is deep democracy. I guess it's a secret phrase. It's a passphrase. There you go. Deep democracy. Just say hello, deep democracy. And if you put it like in little accent items around it and say like in a deep voice, I'll know that you're really a listener of the show, if that makes sense. Assassin the Grey Scribeblade, all you first learned, dear scribe, is that Glowy is a liar and the employee of liars tasked to gaslight rational American citizens with lies, and Heffalump is offended by English. I guess I didn't, once more, I grabbed these TEDx talks randomly, effectively. Well, I guess it's not so much random as does the subject matter, the title, or sometimes the appearance of the speaker, as we saw in that hypnotism one, grab my attention. Everything else, I have absolutely no idea. So for all I knew, this was going to be, this TEDx, a productive conversation about how to deal with someone who you fundamentally disagreed with on certain things. And yet we came into allusions to restorative justice and no examples and the same old stuff. Someday in this sea of rough, perhaps we'll find another diamond. It's been a while, but hope springs eternal. Let's see. Frank Hubbard, not sure how far you are in, but hello all. Happy Independence Day. Happy Independence Day, Frank. We are just about done, actually. So you came in at the 11th hour, but either way. And Zed Hero has to go. Been fun. Later. Thank you, Zed, for hanging out. But otherwise, everyone, yes, I'm going to call that here. That was your Independence Day TEDx special with a bonus video of something that maybe I'll have to look into for future content and broadcasts. Again, a reminder, near the end of this month, I'm looking at around the last weekend of this month, July, will hopefully be, fingers crossed, knock Formica, the next episode of Living on Borrowed Crime with a panoply of true crime stars, not stars of true crime like the people who commit it, but, report on it and that kind of thing. I'm also attempting to work out a one-on-one interviews with a couple of people that I haven't talked to before. So I'm working on that too. But keep your eyes open for that one. As always, you can find me here on Thursdays for, TEDx, just like tonight, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Sunday, there will be the Sunday stream at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, where I'll talk about a thing. I don't know what it'll be yet. I have to wait and see what strikes my fancy by the time Saturday night rolls around. And also, you can find me occasionally when timing works and I have something I can contribute, because I'm always nervous about going on shows where I feel like I don't have anything to offer. Midnight's Edge After Dark on Tuesdays, roundabouts 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. But with that, everybody, I'm going to call it here. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me on this Independence Day. Hope you enjoyed the show. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated, either to myself or to the GoFundMes and such at the top of the chat box, thank you guys so much for your generosity. And on this special day, do remember and keep in mind all the people that sacrificed their lives either in totality or over the course of service towards our country, its freedoms that we all enjoy and that we're continuing to fight for bit by bit, day by day in this ever-developing union as we attempt to perfect it. Creakingly so slow sometimes, but otherwise it's all worth it in the end. I hope, I pray, I keep my fingers crossed. Everybody, have a good rest of your Thursday. Hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.